Hello, welcome to InfoHub InDepth. Over the past week, two significant events occurred. On Monday, the nation paid homage to the slain Guyanese fishermen who lost their lives in a deadly pirate attack off the coast of Suriname between April 27, 2018 and May 3, 2018. Then on Tuesday, the Caribbean Court of Justice handed down their ruling that upheld the presidential term limits in Guyana's constitution. In this week's program, we'll take a look at both of these momentous occasions, starting with Monday, June 25, which was proclaimed a National Day of Mourning as a memorial to Guyanese fishermen.
Roundabouts. Approaching a roundabout. When you approach a roundabout, you must use your indicator if you intend to turn left or right or make a U-turn at the roundabout. You must give other road users sufficient notice of your intent to turn. Entering a roundabout. When entering a roundabout, you must slow or stop to give way to any vehicle already in the roundabout. You must also continue to use your indicators if you intend to turn left or right or make a U-turn. Turning left. When turning left, you must indicate left on approach and be travelling in the left-hand lane unless there are road markings with other instructions. Stay in the left lane and exit in the left lane. Turning right. When turning right, you must indicate right on approach and be travelling in the right-hand lane unless there are road markings with other instructions. Making a U-turn. When using a roundabout to make a U-turn, you must approach in the right lane and signal right. Changing lanes in a roundabout. Drivers may change lanes in a roundabout if they wish. The usual road rules for changing lanes apply. You must use your indicator and give way to any vehicle in the lane you are entering. Going straight ahead. You don't need to signal when approaching the roundabout if you are going straight ahead. You may approach the roundabout from either the left or right lane unless there are road markings with other instructions. Exiting a roundabout. As when you exit a road, you must signal left when leaving a roundabout, if it is practical to do so, and you should stop indicating as soon as you have exited the roundabout. However, when you are travelling straight ahead on a small single-lane roundabout, it may be impractical to indicate when exiting.
In keeping with Article 99(1) of the Constitution of Guyana, the announcement called on all authorities, boards, commissions, corporations, public agencies, ministries and citizens to fly the national flag of Guyana at half-staff. This demonstrated solidarity with the families of those killed and paid respect to the memory of the victims. While this recent incident may be the worst ever suffered by Guyanese, piracy has been conducted ever since mankind took the seas.
While this recent incident in Suriname's waters may be the worst ever suffered by Guyanese, piracy is an age-old occurrence from the time when conquistadors and colonizers were the order of the day.
Modern-day piracy has its roots in the pirates who reigned in the Caribbean Sea since the 16th century. Many of them arrived in the area after the War of the Spanish Succession. Blackbeard, a feared character with wild black hair and a ragged beard, conducted a reign of terror across the Caribbean and the Atlantic Ocean around the mid-1700s. He is believed to have learned his robbery techniques while serving on a British privateer, armed ships hired by the government of the day, where he was allowed to keep whatever spoils of war he managed to gather. Modern pirates are well armed and well organized. Many, particularly Somali gangs, use larger motherships to reach deeper ocean waters before attacking ships with smaller boats and boarding them using grappling hooks and ladders. More than 10 vessels and 250 crew are thought to be currently in the hands of pirates, who are waiting for ransom to be paid by the ship's owners. In Guyana, reported piracy attacks have declined over the years. Minister of State Joseph Harmon.
In fact, in 2011, there were 10 reports of piracy. In 2012, there were 22. In 2013, 3. 2014, 8. 2015, 4. In 2016, there was 1. 2017, 9. And for 2018, up to this incident, there was none. This basically was not something that occurred by magic, but it was the result of a consistent approach which the government took to dealing with these matters that when they occur, these piracy matters.
The declaration of the National Day of Mourning by President David Granger is in keeping with a promise he made when he first addressed the matter on May 3. His Excellency offered his view on the sidelines of the CFATF training for judges and prosecutors at the Guyana Marriott Hotel in Georgetown on June 25 of this year.
We are deeply grieved by the tragedy. Clearly, some Guyanese have been victims, and we are in touch with the Surinamese government and also the Surinamese police authorities. Our police in the B Division, which is the East Berbice Quarantine Division, are in touch with their families, and we plan to observe, formal mourning. It's a great massacre, a great tragedy.
During the incident, 5 boats with 25 crew members were attacked. 9 persons survived the brutal ordeal. 4 bodies were recovered, whilst 12 remain missing and are feared dead. The boats and crew attacked on April 27 were the remainder, captained by Dionorine Goberdan, called Patar 47, is believed to have been the first boat attacked sometime around 1830 hours. Goberdan, a father of 17 children, said he drifted for 22 hours some 8 miles away from shore, barely keeping afloat until he reached land and notified the police. The bodies of 2 of his crew members were washed ashore and positively identified as those of Tilak Nath Mohabir, called Kaiman, and Mahesh Sarju, called Vishal. Bharat Herilal, called Cool Record, and another identified only as Palam, are missing. The missing remainder is believed to have been taken away or sunk by pirates. The Joshua, owned by Rosie Jones, was found submerged in water sunk by the pirates after they launched their attack. The captain, Akibai, was the lone survivor and has since gone into hiding, fearing for his life. His crew members were Lalta Prasad, called Sunil, and Padak, 43, and a father of 4 who had migrated to Suriname over 18 years ago. The others on board were Spanish Man, Bandara, and Mukesh. The name of the 3rd boat is unknown at this time, but had on board Ramesh Sanchara, called Ravo, Ramnarayan Singh, Luknarayan Prasad, called Klein, Rajendra Bisesar, and the captain, Dharmendra Prasad, who was also one of the survivors. The last boat, believed to be attacked sometime after 1 hour on May 5, Saturday morning, was the Shafani, owned by Hemlal Ramsaran. Danish Prasad, called Vicky, of Sheet Anchor, East Kanji, and a father of 2, was the captain. His crew members were Ralph Anthony Couchman, called Burnham, Glenroy Jones, called Alkaline, and Joshua 20, Gaukaran Outar, called Gavin, and Long Hair 33, whose body was found washed up at the 63 beach, and survivor Sherwin Lovell. President Granger noted that the government, through a series of collaborations with the Surinamese authorities, significantly reduced piracy attacks in Guyanese waters.
We have been very successful over the last 3 years in curbing piracy. So this has come as a great setback, and we extend sympathy to the families of the bereaved, but right now we don't have all information. We are in touch with the Surinamese government, and we'll be making a public statement hopefully by tomorrow when the Minister of State gives his press briefing.
Meanwhile, Minister of Public Security Kemraj Ramjatan explained that the high-level visit to the neighboring country yielded vital information.
The very first morning of our arrival, I met with about 25 members of the relatives of the victims. We then had a meeting on the Monday morning with Minister of Police and Justice, Minister of Defense, Minister of Agriculture, the police commissioner, and the chief detective, who was the person in charge of the investigations. And from that meeting, we got a more or less inside scoop as to what it is and how far it is that the investigations had gone.
There was reciprocal visit by Surinamese investigators. This yielded a promise of assistance to local sleuths as the 2 jurisdictions grappled with the heinous high seas massacre.
Recently, a team of Surinamese top detectives working on the fisherman's case, that incident of murder on the high seas, indicated that they are going to help us in relation to getting more evidence and so on, because we had asked them for more evidence in relation to people who we suspect here in Guyana. Just before coming here, I think an envelope from the Commissioner of Police to do what is called a request for mutual assistance for the witnesses to come over to Guyana and to be cross-examined by our CID department. That request came in that envelope. I saw it come in, it was on my desk, but I had to rush here. I'm going to make that request of the Surinamese authorities. They have sent me all that they have done so far on a daily basis that has gone to the extent of, minutiae in their investigations. Some things were not there, of course, but we need some more information before we can fully complete whatever investigation we want, because those witnesses are over there. If not, I can work out our senior officers going over there to interview those witnesses that they have, including the accused and those who are on remand, because we need to do that ourselves. So it is a very close working relationship. It has been so for some time. And with the new minister, Mr. Gitru, we have very regular communication. And that was that one that I'll sign on to him, because he's the central authority. I'm the central authority in Guyana. I will make the request of him, and I'm certain, because he has indicated as much. Let's just go through the paperwork, and we will get there.
The alleged mastermind of the massacre is Suriname's Nakul Manohar, called Fire, age 39, of Lot 1, number 43, Village Quarantine, who was initially charged on May 30 with murder. Manohar appeared at the Springlands Magistrates Court before Magistrate Rabindranath Singh to answer to charges of piracy on the high seas, for which he was previously remanded. However, he was instead slapped with a murder charge. The charge stated that between April 26 and May 3rd, while in Guyana's territorial waters, he murdered Tilak North Mahabir, called Cayman. He was further remanded to prison until June 13. On June 13, Prem North Prasad, also known as Sinbad, who is said to be the pirates' leader, was jointly charged with the murder of 2 fishermen. Prasad, 43, was jointly charged with Nakul Manohar at the Springlands Magistrates Court with the murders of Tilak North Mahabir, also known as Kai or Cayman, and Mahesh Sarju. The charge read that the 2 men between April 27 and May 3 murdered Mahabir and Sarju during the course of a robbery in quarantine waters. Another accused, Alexander Denhart, called Shameface, of number 79 Village Quarantine, Berbice, appeared before Acting Chief Magistrate Sherdel Isaacs Marcus in early June and was not required to plead to the indictable charge. On Sunday, June 24, the victims' families and relatives gathered to say farewell with solemn Hindu rites for the dead. They reflected on the lives of their loved ones and how they have been affected.
Well, that is a good thing that he's done, And maybe if he could do it like every year or so, would be a possible, because that is something, since I'm 24 years old and I never noticed anything like that.
Sanchara's wife, Kewalpati Mangru, tearfully recalled her husband, a fisherman for more than 30 years.
He liked the fishing work. And me and he will live a Suriname, and he just work, and he doesn't do nothing, and so he doesn't mind me, and I just mind my grandson. Me got 3 children. My grandchildren.
The wife of Danish Prasad, Kavita Ibrahim, and Nandrani Sukra, mother of 19-year-old Ralph Couchman, spoke of the challenges they now face following the attack.
Right now, me got me 2 children, them are paying rent. Me need nobody to assist me. Nobody me get to assist me. If me not pay me rent, me gonna get put out. The people go put me on the road with my children, we part, me gonna go. Me not got a family set, they gonna go and help me or assist me with my children. Right now, my neighbors them assist me.
I stressed out a lot. Many days I don't sleep, many nights, many days I in the hammock sit down crying without eating nothing. And I eat little food, so it lasts me till the next day. You get no appetite or nothing. It stressed me out big time. And the last I saw my son was on the 10th of January when he left Guyana to go Suriname and never ever see back until today.
A moment of silence was also observed in the National Assembly. Solidarity for the victims of the deadly piracy attacks and the names of those 16 missing and feared dead were stated for the record. The government has been maintaining a constant presence to discourage the scourge of piracy from Guyana's waters through aerial monitoring with the Coast Guard and the Guyana Defense Force. Welcome back. 3 years ago, a private citizen challenged the constitutionality of amendments that set presidential term limits and restrictions on presidential candidates. On Tuesday, June 26, the Caribbean Court of Justice ruled those amendments were validly enacted or fit and proper.
In 2000, bipartisan work by the Constitutional Reform Commission led the passage of Act No. 17 of 2001. The Act saw the amendment of Article 90 of the Constitution, which would set a two-term presidential term and qualifications that would be required to become a presidential candidate. A mysterious resident of Lot 4 West Rumville, Cedric Richardson, in December 2014 moved to the High Court to ask the then Acting Chief Justice Ian Chang to determine if this act was unconstitutional. He also claimed, among other things, that the act diminished the level of democracy enjoyed by an electorate inherent in Articles 1 and 9 of the Constitution. The case was ostensibly designed to allow opposition leader Bar Jagdeo to run for the presidency for a third term, since he has already served 2 terms as president from 1999 to 2011. Jagdeo's party, the PPP, won a narrow minority government in the 2011 elections and lost to the APNU-AFC coalition in 2015. In July 2015, former Acting Chief Justice Ian Chang posited, among other things, the presidential term limit was unconstitutional without the approval of the people through a referendum. Former Speaker of the National Assembly, Minister Raphael Trotman, appealed Justice Chang's ruling in the Court of Appeal. Former Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, Justice Carl Singh, Justice of Appeal B.S. Roy, and current Acting Chief Justice Yonit Cummings Edwards presided over the case. Before Justice Singh demitted office, he upheld the Chang ruling that Act 17 of 2001 was unconstitutional by split decision. C.J. Cummings Edwards dissented. She upheld the validity of Act 17 of 2001, stating it did not require approval by referendum. It is not unconstitutional. It did not diminish the democratic right of the electorate, she said. Attorney General Williams then appealed the ruling at the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, in Trinidad and Tobago, the final appeal court recognized by Guyana.
More than a year after the appeal was filed, the CCJ upheld the validity of the amendments to the Constitution in a 6-1 decision. President of the CCJ, Sir Dennis Byron, said, setting restrictions on who can become president and how long a president can serve is democracy at work.
The Constitution could have made the qualifications to elect as president, subject to the deepest level of entrenchment. But by providing different levels of entrenchment for Articles 1 and 9 on the one hand, and Article 90 on the other, the inescapable conclusion was that the framers of the Constitution did not envisage that altering the qualification to be president would necessarily impact on the democracy or the sovereignty of the people of Guyana.
Sir Dennis concluded the premise that Articles 1 and 9 implied an unlimited right to choose the head of state was not obvious.
The establishment of qualifications for the position of president was normal in democratic constitutions and does not diminish substantive voter choice.
The CCJ's president noted that the qualifications for office, citizenship, residence and term limits were clearly addressed by the amendments put forward in Act No. 17 of 2001.
The establishment of qualifications for the position of president was normal in democratic constitutions and does not diminish substantive voter choice. Additionally, after rebutting the submission by counsel on behalf of Mr. Richardson that the political theories of John Locke and the American philosopher Jonathan Mansfield supported the view that a core feature of a democratic state was the unrestrained freedom to select a representative, the President said that the concept of qualifications for office was not open-ended. I mean, it would include matters of age, citizenship, residence, and term limits. In fact, only these issues, excluding age, were addressed by the amendments in Guyana. Had there been attempts to introduce unusual considerations to mask as qualifications, then different principles for adjudication would arise.
The eminent legal mind concluded that the amendments laid out in the Act were a single item in a suite of constitutional amendments designed to reflect Guyana's evolving democracy.
It was clear from the history of the amendments that they did not emerge from the desire of any political party to manipulate the candidacy for the presidency according to its agenda. It represented the considered opinion of the 1999 Constitutional Reform Commission after extensive national consultation of the national view on what was required to enhance democracy in Guyana, making the Constitution more relevant to the needs of citizens and reduce racial and political tensions in the country. And the amendments had national support.
The CCJ ruling on the third-term case is especially meaningful for those who served on the Constitutional Reform Commission in the 1990s.
Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu said the ruling by the country's final court of appeal validates the work undertaken by the Constitutional Reform Commission.
It means that our Constitution is supreme. It means that if the Constitution says that there are only 2 terms for a person wanting to be president, then that is the law.
The PM served on the Constitutional Reform Commission in 1996. Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, a party in the third-term case, said the ruling vindicated the struggles faced by the Reform Commission.
Today we are vindicated, and today we know that the Parliament and its representatives, who of course represent the views of the people, all those are paramount, and we have managed to arrest, I believe, a sick attempt to thwart all of those gains and to wash away all of the labours of the last decade and a half.
The 1999 Constitutional Reform Commission had conducted countrywide consultations. These aimed to make the Constitution more relevant to the needs of citizens and reduce racial and political tensions in the country. Minister of State Joseph Harmon notes that the country can now move forward in unity to address issues affecting the nation.
The ruling itself, I believe, should bring to an end speculations. It basically says that the interpretation which the courts have given to provisions in our Constitution are important. It also reinforces the fact that citizens of this country can utilize the judicial process to get an outcome.
Prime Minister Nagamutu called for the respect of the judicial system following the CCJ's ruling.
I believe that this slaughter of our judicial system, of judicial officers, should come to an end. That the ambition of one person should not be used as an instrument to destroy our symbols of justice and fairness, our symbols of judicial review and of resolution of conflicts.
Following the ruling, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu noted that the public now questions the opposition leader's sincerity when he stated that he was not interested in a third term following the CCJ's ruling on the matter.
When the amendments to Article 90 were taken to the National Assembly in 2000, both the PPP and the PNC voted for there to be only 2 terms for anyone who would contest the presidency. Opposition leader Bar Jagdeo was one of the signatories that was present in Act No. 17 of 2001. Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu noted there were persons inside the PPP who did not support a motion for Jagdeo to run for a third term.
I believe that we have to be more decisive in public life. And I have seen the attempts that have been made to start a campaign for a third term for Mr. Jagdeo. And I am now questioning whether or not he had been sincere when he said he was not interested in a third term.
Minister of State Joseph Harmon said the PPP would now have to decide who will be their next presidential candidate.
At the level of the parties, I believe the PPP will have to now make their own determination going forward, because it was a ruling about Mr. Jagdeo's eligibility for running as a third term for president. You know, presidential elections are not due until 2020. So that's a matter which the PPP has to deal with.
Minister Harmer noted the CCJ's ruling upholds the Constitution's restriction on serving more than 2 terms as a president.
Once you had actually served as a president, that it is really the highest office in the land. And so in the sense I get is that this is really what the input or the intent of the provisions of our Constitution is that once you've actually run and you had held that high office, that really you should not seek again elected political office.
This position was supported by Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman.
It was never expected that a former president would ever want to come back into office, and that is why the retirement package and salary is so good. You are not meant to get back and be involved. And so there's that ambiguity. I do believe that, strictly speaking, that a former president may come back as a member of a cabinet, but I don't know, given Mr. Jagdeo's personality, how he'd want to settle on under any other president, but that's a matter for him and whoever they name to work out.
The CCJ's ruling that amendments to Guyana's constitution are valid squashes any presidential aspirations Jagdeo may have had. The constitution also effectively bars him for serving as prime minister. Article 101 of the constitution notes, a person who is not eligible to be elected as president shall not be eligible for appointment as prime minister.
Thanks for watching, and do join us again next week.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.